Day 47 of the integration. The phrase had become a standard opening for news broadcasts worldwide. For nearly 7 weeks, humanity had been adapting to life under the watchful eyes of the observer vessels. 17 massive ships remained in high orbit, maintaining their perfect geometric formation, while smaller craft occasionally descended to perform what the aliens called calibration activities. In the White House Situation Room, President Trump studied the latest reports with a mixture of frustration and determination. The wall of screens displayed data from around the world, integration percentages by region, technological adaptation rates, and an ever-present countdown. 307 days to full integration. "Give me the update," Trump demanded, looking at the assembled team of military officers, intelligence analysts, and scientists. General Mitchell, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, stood. "Observer vessels maintain their established positions. No aggressive movements detected. Their smaller craft continue periodic descents over major technological centers: Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, Bangalore, Seoul. Each visit coincides with accelerated integration in those regions." "And our countermeasures?" Trump asked. The general's expression tightened. "Limited success, Mr. President. Our attempts to isolate critical systems from the integration process fail within hours. Whatever this alien technology is, it finds ways around our best firewalls and air gaps." Dr. Richards sat at the far end of the table, her eyes distant. Since becoming the neural liaison with the observer knowledge base, she had changed. She spent hours in apparent meditation, processing alien information. When she spoke, her insights were unnervingly precise, but often delivered in terminology others struggled to comprehend. "Dr. Richards," Trump called, drawing her attention. "What's your assessment?" She focused on the president, her gaze sharpening. "The integration proceeds as designed. The observers are satisfied with current progress. They find human adaptation fascinating." "I don't care if they're fascinated," Trump snapped. "I want to know how to slow this down, how to maintain control of our own systems." Richards tilted her head slightly. "The concept of control is being redefined. Integration doesn't remove control. It redistributes it across optimized parameters." The defense secretary leaned toward Trump. "Sir, with all due respect, I'm concerned about Dr. Richards's objectivity. The neural connection appears to be affecting her perspective." "I remain fully human," Richards stated calmly. "My connection simply allows me to understand concepts beyond standard human frameworks. The observers are not conquering Earth. They are upgrading it." Trump studied her for a moment. In their private sessions, Richards had been sharing alien knowledge as promised, but always with the same, unnervingly detached perspective. He wasn't sure if she was compromised or simply transformed by the experience. "Let's talk about something concrete," Trump redirected. "The energy technology from the crystal, where do we stand?" Dr. Chen, who had been leading the research team on the alien energy principles, cleared his throat nervously. "We've made significant progress, Mr. President. We've developed a working prototype that generates clean energy at unprecedented efficiency. However," he hesitated. "However what?" "However, the technology only functions within integrated systems. It's as if the energy generation principles are designed to work exclusively with observer-modified infrastructure. The more integration proceeds, the more efficient our prototypes become." Trump slammed his hand on the table. "So they've got us in a trap. Use their energy tech, accept their integration, reject integration, lose the energy advantage." "A convergent development path," Richards commented. "Not a trap. Efficiency." Trump ignored her. "What about the military option? If we had to—" General Mitchell shook his head grimly. "Still non-viable, sir. Our most advanced weapons can't penetrate their defensive systems. The few test scenarios we've run in simulation suggest catastrophic retaliation capabilities. And that's assuming we could even coordinate an attack with our command systems increasingly integrated into their network." Trump stood abruptly and walked to the window. Outside, Washington, D.C. continued its normal rhythm. From the ground, you couldn't see the observer vessel high above, but everyone knew it was there. Similar scenes played out in capitals worldwide. Life had developed a strange, new normal under alien observation. I need options, people. Real options. Trump turned back to the room. I promised the world I'd keep humanity in control. I'm not going to be remembered as the president who handed Earth over to aliens without a fight. In the 7 weeks since first contact, Trump had positioned himself as humanity's chief negotiator with the observers. It had initially boosted his popularity. Polls showed unprecedented approval ratings in the immediate aftermath of the crisis. But as integration continued and the initial fear subsided, questions began to emerge. Opposition leaders worldwide criticized the terms he'd negotiated. Conspiracy theories flourished about what the observers really wanted. The meeting continued with updates from various departments. The Treasury Secretary reported unexpected stability in global markets despite the alien presence. The Commerce Secretary detailed how integrated systems were showing efficiency improvements of 30 to 40% across multiple industries. The Secretary of State summarized the complex international responses, from nations embracing integration to those attempting to resist. As the briefing concluded, Trump held Richards back while the others filed out. "Walk with me," he instructed, once they were alone. They moved through the White House corridors, Secret Service agents maintaining a respectful distance. "You've been holding back," Trump said quietly. "There's more in that alien knowledge than you're sharing." Richards didn't deny it. "The information is vast. I prioritize what seems most relevant." "Relevant to whom? To us or to them?" Trump stopped walking, facing her directly. "You told me the observers believe Earth will face contact with other alien species soon. I need to know more about that. Who are these other aliens? Are they a threat? Do they have better technology than the observers?" A subtle change came over Richards's expression, something like concern breaking through her usual detachment. "The collective," she said finally. "That's what the observers call them, an expansionist civilization from a distant sector. They don't integrate. They consume." "And when are they coming?" "Unknown. But the observers believe it will be within 5 Earth years. This is why integration must be completed. So the observers are preparing us to fight these collective aliens." Richards shook her head. "Not fight. Survive. The observers believe unintegrated civilizations cannot withstand collective attention. Trump processed this information. If these collective aliens are so dangerous, why don't the observers just give us their weapons technology? Let us defend ourselves? Because untested civilizations with advanced weapons historically self-destruct 89.4% of the time, Richards Grautwis replied with unsettling precision. The observers have studied thousands of emerging technological species across the galaxy. They have found that guided integration maximizes survival probability. Trump resumed walking, his mind racing with implications. "I need more, Doctor. I need everything you know about observer weaknesses, about their technology, about these collective aliens. America needs to lead humanity's response, not just follow alien guidance." Richards matched his pace. "I will share what I can, but there are barriers. Certain knowledge is restricted until integration reaches specific thresholds. So they don't trust us with the good stuff yet," Trump muttered. "Trust is an imprecise term for their approach. They calculate readiness based on measurable parameters." They reached the rose garden, stepping outside into the sunlight. Above them, somewhere beyond the blue sky, the observer vessel maintained its silent watch. "There's something else," Richard said suddenly. "Something important about the integration process that I've only recently understood." Trump looked at her expectantly. "The observers are not just preparing Earth for potential threats. They're also evaluating us." "Evaluating us for what?" "For inclusion." Richard's eyes seemed to focus on something distant. "The observers are representatives of a much larger network of integrated species, a galactic community of sorts. Earth is being considered for membership." Trump's eyes narrowed. "Membership has conditions, I assume." "Yes, successful integration is the primary qualification." Trump considered this new information. If Earth was being evaluated for membership in some galactic alliance, that changed the dynamics considerably. It wasn't just about surviving integration. It was about positioning humanity, and specifically America, advantageously within a new interstellar political landscape. I want daily updates on everything you learn about this galactic community, Trump instructed. Power structures, resources, technology trading, everything. If we're joining a new club, I want to make sure we get the best seats at the table. Richards nodded, though something in her expression suggested skepticism about his approach. Back in the Oval Office, Trump found his national security advisor waiting with a Chinese delegation. Since the observer's arrival, international cooperation had increased dramatically, not from altruism, but necessity. Nations that had been rivals for decades now found themselves unified by a common situation. President Trump, greeted the Chinese foreign minister. We bring a proposal from President Xi. The proposal was significant. A joint U.S.-China technological initiative to study integrated systems, with unprecedented sharing of research and resources. Under normal circumstances, Trump would have been deeply suspicious of such cooperation. But these weren't normal circumstances. Your president understands the situation, Trump replied after reviewing the documents. We'll establish the joint research centers immediately. As the delegation departed, Trump turned to his national security advisor. Make sure we have our best people on this, and make sure they understand anything useful they discover comes to me first before it's shared. America first, even in alien integration, the advisor noted with a slight smile. Especially in alien integration, Trump corrected. The next morning brought new developments. Observer vessels worldwide simultaneously lowered their altitude, descending to approximately 1 mile above major cities, well below the negotiated 5-mile minimum. Smaller craft deployed in greater numbers, hovering directly above technological infrastructure. Power plants, server farms, telecommunications centers. Global panic was immediate. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. Stock markets plummeted. Social media exploded with doomsday predictions. Trump was awakened at 4:30 a.m. with the news. By 5 a.m. he was in the Situation Room demanding explanations. Get me those observer representatives now, he ordered. They're violating our agreement, Dr. Richards was brought in, looking strangely calm despite being pulled from sleep. There's no cause for alarm, she stated as soon as she entered. No cause for alarm. Trump repeated incredulously. They've broken our deal! They're moving into attack position. Richards shook her head. Not attack position. The integration has reached a critical threshold that requires closer physical proximity for the next phase. And they didn't think to mention this beforehand? They did. Through me. Richards looked troubled for the first time. I received the information 3 days ago. I thought I had communicated it during our briefings. The defense secretary frowned. No, Doctor, you certainly did not mention anything about the ships descending. Richards pressed her fingers to her temples. I'm sorry. The information transfer isn't always linear. Sometimes I believe I've shared knowledge when I've only processed it internally. Trump's expression darkened. So now we can't even trust that you're telling us everything you know? The neural interface is complex, Richards admitted. But I can attempt to establish direct communication with the observers now. They will explain their actions. At her words, every screen in the Situation Room activated simultaneously. The silver face of an observer appeared, its glowing eyes seeming to look at each person individually. The integration enters Phase 3, the synthesized voice announced. Proximity adjustment is necessary for optimal progression. Your defensive preparations are unnecessary and counterproductive. Trump stepped forward. You're violating our agreement. 5 miles minimum altitude. Those were the terms. Circumstances have evolved. The detection of external signals necessitates accelerated integration. A chill went through the room. External signals? General Mitchell repeated. What external signals? Communication patterns matching collective algorithms have been detected at the edge of your solar system, the observer explained. Probability of advanced scout presence, 78.6%. Trump glanced at Richards, who nodded slightly, confirming the EU observer's statement. "So these collective aliens are already here," Trump demanded. "You said we had years." "Primary collective presence remains distant," the observer clarified. "Scout elements may be present sooner. Accelerated integration improves detection and defense capabilities." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Earth was potentially already under observation by a second alien civilization, one the observers considered dangerous enough to break their agreement and accelerate their plans. Trump straightened, his political instincts kicking in. This was a moment that called for the appearance of strength and control, even if he felt neither. "We'll allow the altitude adjustment temporarily," he stated, as though he had any choice in the matter. "But I want full briefings on these external signals and any potential threats. And I want observer representatives to meet with Earth's defense leadership immediately to coordinate response strategies." The observer's expression remained impassive. "Acceptable. The liaison will facilitate information transfer regarding collective methodologies. Integration remains the primary defense." The screens went dark, leaving the room in stunned silence. "Get me the president of Russia," Trump ordered. "Then the EU leadership, China, India, Japan, everyone. We need a united front more than ever." As his staff rushed to arrange emergency communications, Trump pulled Richards aside. "Did you know about these scout signals?" he demanded quietly. "Not specifically," she admitted. "I knew the observers considered collective contact likely, but not that they had detected actual signals. The information must have been restricted in the knowledge base accessible to me." Trump's eyes narrowed. "What else might they be hiding? From you? From us?" "Unknown," Richards answered honestly. "But it's clear now that the integration timeline is not fixed. The observers will adjust their approach based on external factors." Throughout the day, Trump led emergency discussions with world leaders. For once, international politics took a back seat to the common situation. Nations that had been adversaries for generations found themselves sharing intelligence, coordinating responses, and presenting a unified human front. By evening, a global response task force had been established, with representatives from major military powers working together to develop contingency plans. Trump insisted that America take the leading role, but even he recognized the necessity of true cooperation in this unprecedented circumstance. As night fell over Washington, Trump stood alone in the Oval Office, watching the observer vessel hovering, much closer than before, its lights visible even against the evening sky. The weight of history pressed down on him, the knowledge that his decisions now would be studied for generations to come, assuming humanity had generations ahead of. His secure phone rang, a direct line that only a few people had access to. "Mr. President," came the voice of Dr. Richards, "I need to see you immediately, alone." 30 minutes later, Richards was escorted into the Oval Office. Secret Service conducted a thorough security scan before leaving them alone at Trump's insistence. Richards looked different. There was an urgency in her manner that had been absent since becoming the liaison. "What's so important it couldn't wait until morning?" Trump asked. Richards glanced around as if checking for observers, then spoke in a hushed tone. "The neural connection, it fluctuates. There are moments of clarity when I can see beyond the filters they've placed on the knowledge base." Trump leaned forward, instantly alert. "And? The observers aren't telling us everything about the collective. They're not just another alien civilization. They're—" She struggled, as if fighting against some internal restriction. "They're related to the observers somehow, the same species, but following a different evolutionary path. Related, like a civil war." Richards shook her head. "More complex. A philosophical divide that occurred millennia ago. The observers believe in guiding species through integration. The collective believes in harvesting them." "Harvesting for what? Resources, technology, biological material?" Richards pressed her hands against her temples. "The observers present themselves as benevolent guides, but their motivation isn't purely altruistic. They're building a coalition of integrated worlds to oppose collective expansion. Trump processed this revelation. So we're being dragged into some ancient alien conflict? Yes, but that's not all. Richards lowered her voice further. I've discovered something in the knowledge base about Earth specifically. We're not just another world to them. Our planet has unique properties they value highly. What properties? Biological diversity, mineral composition, and something in human neurology that makes us especially compatible with their integration process. We're not just a random target. We're a high-value acquisition in their conflict with the collective. Trump's eyes narrowed. So, we're a prize they're fighting over. A prize with agency, Richards corrected. How we respond to integration influences the outcome, and she hesitated. There may be a third option beyond simply accepting observer integration or facing collective harvest. What third option? Independence. It would require understanding and controlling the integration process rather than just submitting to it, turning their technology to our advantage. Richards looked directly at Trump. I believe I've found a way to access restricted sections of the observer knowledge base, areas containing information about how to potentially reverse or modify integration. Trump studied her carefully. Why are you telling me this? Why not share it in the official briefings? Because I don't know who else might be compromised by the neural connection. I experience moments of clarity, but they're brief. Other times, I find myself thinking in observer patterns without realizing it. Her expression was haunted. I need you to establish a secure team, people with no direct connection to the integration process. They'll need to work with me during my clarity moments to extract and analyze the restricted information. It was a risk. Richards could be leading him into a trap, intentionally or not. But it was also the first real opportunity to regain some control over humanity's destiny. I'll establish the team, Trump decided. Off the books, reporting directly to me. Richards nodded. There's one more thing you should know. The countdown to full integration. It's not just about completing the process, it's also a deadline. A deadline for what? For their evaluation. If Earth fails to integrate successfully by the deadline, the observers have protocols for unsuccessful integration scenarios. She met his gaze directly. Including abandonment if collective forces approach. The implications were clear. The observers weren't committed to Earth's defense unconditionally. If their integration failed, they might simply leave humanity to face the collective alone. How convenient, Trump muttered. Submit to their control or be abandoned to something worse. It's how they've operated across thousands of worlds, Richards confirmed. The success rate is high enough that they consider the methodology justified. Trump moved to the window, looking up at the observer vessel hovering much closer than before. The alien presence that had once seemed mysterious now felt more ominous. I've made deals with tough negotiators all my life, he said quietly. But these observers, they don't negotiate. They present the illusion of choice while moving forward with their agenda regardless. He turned back to Richards. Establish contact when you have your next moment of clarity. I'll have a team ready. We're going to find this third option, and we're going to make sure humanity controls its own future. As Richards departed, Trump remained at the window, contemplating the unfamiliar sensation of being outmaneuvered. Throughout his career, he had prided himself on always finding leverage, always turning situations to his advantage. Now, he faced an adversary that operated on a different level entirely. But if there was one thing Donald Trump understood, it was the art of the comeback. The observers thought they had humanity cornered, accepting integration or facing the collective alone. They hadn't considered that humans might find another path entirely. In the dark sky above Washington, the observer vessel emitted a pulse of blue light that spread outward, covering the city. Similar pulses occurred from observer ships worldwide. Phase 3 of the integration was accelerating. On screens across the planet, the countdown adjusted. 278 days to full integration. The race for humanity's future had entered a new stage. And despite everything, Trump felt a familiar sensation rising within him, the thrill of competition, the determination to win against impossible odds. The observers might have advanced technology and ancient knowledge, but they were about to learn a lesson about human unpredictability. As dawn broke over Washington, plans were already forming in the president's mind. The observers weren't the only ones who could play a long game. And they certainly weren't the only ones willing to break an agreement when circumstances changed. The integration countdown continued its steady progression. But a different, unspoken countdown had begun. The human effort to discover a path to independence before it was too late.